What's up? It's me, Don Tolliver. If I could describe the open earbud, I would describe it as very seamless. It's like you clip it onto your ear, and then sometimes you can forget it's there, but it's not going anywhere because it's like clipped. It's kind of crazy. If I could bring my music with me wherever I go, it just make life easier and seamless without interruption. To be able to have the music on hand like that without any interruptions would be great. Check out Bose.com for more.
Being a marketer's no sweat. You just have to manage dozens of channels, launch hundreds of campaigns, score thousands of leads, and okay, fine, it's a lot of sweat. Unless you have HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools to help you do all that and more. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
Professionals spend nearly half the work week on written communication, so focus is important. With Grammarly as your AI writing partner, focus and quickly get through your work with relevant, real-time suggestions. And it works across 500,000 apps and websites, so you can sound more confident and persuasive wherever you write. 93% of professionals report that Grammarly helps them get more work done. Download Grammarly for free at grammarly.com/podcast. That's grammarly.com/podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kelly Green Hour podcast. I am your host, Connor Donald, and I am not joined by my usual co-host, LJ. He is off, I believe, at a buddy's wedding, so me and Ryan agree, if you're going to miss Dallas week preview episode, you better have a good excuse, and this seems like a pretty good one. So I am joined by another Eagles pin pull host and co-host of multiple shows, Ryan Reese. He can be found at Philly Sports PSA on Twitter, and I can be found at Connor10TEN on Twitter. What's up, Ryan? Are you ready for Dallas week or what?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and thank you so much for having me. But I gotta say, it feels like this year or this week lacks a little, luster behind the old the punch. I mean, there's a lot of injuries. Dak isn't going to be there, and yeah, I don't know. It just I don't know, just doesn't feel like the same as it did maybe back in the day. But hopefully that means we should get an easy victory, right?
That's the hope and prayer always with this Eagles team, is to pull out the wins you should have. So, I mean, I agree with you. We're damned if we do, damned if we don't, because if we win, the Cowboys fans are going to come out as an army and say, well, we didn't have Dak, even though Dak has, kind of been has been their punching bag for the season because of how the team's been playing. And then if they win, they're going to be like, oh my goodness, we beat the Eagles. The Eagles are terrible. So
yeah, we're no winning. Lose. Yeah.
Yep. So as always, follow Eagles Pinpull Network pretty much everywhere. We're on Facebook at Eagles Pinpull. We're on Twitter at Eagles Pinpull. We're on YouTube at Eagles Pinpull, and everywhere is where you get your podcast. Make sure to type in Eagles Pinpull, hit subscribe, hit download on some episodes. If you hit download, you're probably going to be hitting subscribe afterwards. So you might as well just subscribe anyways.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm on a couple of the shows, and it's such a great, newer network, but it's with a lot of experienced hosts, and bringing you a lot of different varieties of shows. So do yourself a favor and let that be the one you download.
Definitely. And of course, if you're joining us, hop on into the comments. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know your questions, anything. Hop on in and join us. But let's start where you kind of preluded to in your comments with the Dallas Cowboys are going to be without Dak Prescott. The timeline, I mean, the Cowboys with their typical veiled type of discussion. It could be 4 weeks, could be 6 weeks, could be the year. We don't know. Some of the other media personalities are saying it's 6 to 8 weeks, but they haven't decided yet on if surgery is going to be the route they take, because if they do surgery, he's done for the year. So I guess the next couple of weeks are probably going to dictate what the Cowboys do. If Cooper Rush can pinch out a win or two, maybe they push Dak not to get surgery, wait for the offseason and see if they can pull something out. I tweeted earlier in the week, in a division that we haven't had a repeat champion in 20 years, and it looks like it's going to be 21. Falling behind 3.5 games this late in the season usually isn't positioning you very well to win the division. And it's going to make it hard to make it in the NFC because there's, even after the first place teams or the division leading teams, there's still some pretty decent competition in the conference that, feels like the Cowboys are bound for a 9-8 finish if they at the peak at the top of their possibility of records. And that doesn't seem like it could get you into the playoffs. But I mean, the impact of, there is, Cooper Rush is 5-1 as a starter. So there is, that potential something to it that the Cowboys are leaning and preying on. But I mean, what's your general feeling on the impact of no Dak Prescott this week, despite this tough start to their season?
Yeah, listen, it's kind of hard for me because, obviously I've been an Eagles fan for forever. And we seem to have a history, let's just say, of letting backup quarterbacks come and get victories over us when they shouldn't. The Joe Webbs of the world, will forever be in my memory. But listen, Cooper Rush, as you said, is 5-1. I think a lot of people seem to disrespect the fact that it is hard to win in this league, and I don't care who you are. 5-1 is 5-1, so he's obviously doing something right. But there's something else going on with Dallas, and they've had some injuries outside of Dak, and especially on the defensive side. And I just think there's just kind of a something not clicking there this year with them. And I would like to think that Cooper Rush can kind of handle not that far off from Dak, but coming into the Eagles, I the only thing I worry about is the fact that we haven't won in Dallas in forever. And but I'm pretty confident, honestly, coming into this game, because outside of a hobbled CeeDee Lamb, they really don't have much offensively. And outside of a potentially hobbled Micah Parsons, they don't have a lot going on defensively. So, to answer your question a long way around, I don't think Cooper Rush is the guy here to get them a victory over the Eagles.
No, I think that the Dallas really needs to look in the mirror and start to think about, okay, what do we got? Because everyone was saying, Mike McCarthy's on the hot seat this season. Same with Nick Sirianni. They were both on the hot seat. They're both running in complete opposite directions. They were going in the same direction to start the year, but they've really branched apart with Nick Sirianni and the Eagles winning, and Mike McCarthy still just not seemingly able to get over that hump of, after 3 or 4 seasons, just becoming lackluster. And he took over the play calling last year. I don't think he was a play caller, and then he suddenly takes it over and it becomes this really blandish, not even that great offense. Dak Prescott's taken a big step back compared to what got him paid in the offseason. We have a Facebook user here. Dallas issues are internal. Absolutely. I mean, you just have to listen to Jerry Jones. It's so, to have an owner be so outspoken and just downright, how can you play for him? Like, the way he talks about some of these players on a given week, or in veiled ways kind of throws shade at some players in situations, is just, you hate to have an owner that is so talkative like that and so in the media. He has his own hour or two on a radio show a week. Like, that's not good ownership right there. You take your step, and then you got Stephen Jones, who makes a lot of the player personnel decisions, and obviously that's a whole nother story, because how hard is it going to be to make him step back and realize, okay, we need to get somebody different in-house. We need a whole different take and look on this team. And it's just not going to be you, Steven, but you can still reap the reward of the millions and billions of dollars rolling in. You just can't make the decisions. The decision-making internally is extremely questionable. And I mean, I won't lie. I think I had Dallas finishing. I think in my predictions, I had Dallas making the playoffs and finishing right behind the Eagles, because I did not think there's cracks. There was definitely cracks, but I was not going so far as to say that at this point in the season, they would be, a 3-5 football team with a minus 54 point differential, and just feels like they're not finding their stride or their way whatsoever.
Yeah, you're right. Even when you can look at the Dallas Cowboys and kind of, again, as you said, see those cracks, they somehow find a way to figure it out and get victories, especially over teams that they really don't have business beating. But they're not doing that this year. They're not getting those victories. And, as you said, they're 3-5 now. And, it's not like they have a bunch of, Carolina Panthers coming up on their schedule. So I don't see how they're going to survive, even if Dak is out only 4 games, how they're going to be able to survive 4 games. And then, you have to worry about the ramp up for Dak. So, it's not looking great in Jerry's world. And you're right. What kind of owner is in sports in general is that outspoken? He is the absolute most outspoken. He talks the most. He's the only one that, I'm sure he's maybe not the only one that has like a podcast. I mean, I'm sure Mark Cuban goes on podcasts, but, Jerry's always talking about, how great they're doing and this, that, and the other, but never wants to talk about the real issues. And, even one time one of the hosts of the show he does, was asking him about the offseason and all these, going all in, plans. And, they obviously didn't do that. And he basically threatened to fire the guy. Like, he freaked out. So, honestly, I hope Jerry Jones lives forever. I hope he never sells the team. I hope Steven, heck, he can probably take over too. That's fine with that. But yeah, I love Jerry. Keep the Jones family in the Dallas Cowboys. I'll be a happy man.
I mean, the irony that the Washington Commanders were forced to sell, like the situation is not a joking matter, but they were forced out of it, and suddenly it's like 360, completely different. And is Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones going to sell the team? Absolutely not. That's not the expectation here. Would a step back from both of them out of the limelight and out of the decision-making process of the team, minus maybe coaching? Like, we know Jeffrey Lurie's involved in the coaching, but we know when it comes to on the field, day-to-day stuff, he is hands off, keeps back. He has a certain type of coach. He likes to hire a certain type of coach. Right. That is what it is. But if they step back, could they not have, a Commanders-esque type turnaround? Like, they got good players in the building already, and they just need a proper build and stuff. And I don't want to throw too much praise at the Dallas Cowboys, because obviously we hate the Dallas Cowboys, but I mean, it's just like the Commanders was a simple, almost seemed like a lesson to people who are too involved in things to take a step back, get out of the way, get out of your own team's way, and let them win. Because you're only going to make more money by stepping back and letting them win more merchandise sales, more ticket sales, more butts and seats. It's everything. Right. So the Facebook user says, Jerry just wants to be the smartest in the room. Definitely. The guy wants to be, he's a type who wants the first word and he wants the last word. He's never going to be the one to step back and say, I agree, or be okay with a decision that he wasn't firmly entrenched in making that decision. So I agree. He does just want to be the smartest man in the room. And then you kind of talked about the weapons. So the Cowboys will introduce Jonathan Mingo to the world. Obviously, we've seen, there's videos out there of him going for a ball, leading out of bounds, and suddenly turning his whole body out of bounds. The absolute worst way to make a catch in football. Jonathan Mingo, former second-round pick, just wasn't hitting in Carolina. And, I mean, obviously they have their situation in Carolina, with Bryce Young, what's going on there. They're not the world's greatest offense, not the world's greatest defense, not the greatest team in general either. But to that same point, like, without Dak Prescott, like Dak Prescott's clearly getting the best out of Jalen Tolbert, or has been getting the best out of Jalen Tolbert. And I don't know if a Cooper Rush is going to get the best out of Jalen Tolbert, Jonathan Mingo, and some of these secondary pieces beyond, CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson. We usually see with guys like Cooper Rush, dumb down offenses, get the ball out quickly, and you're focused on, couple of your main targets, which is going to clearly be like Lamb and Ferguson. Wouldn't be surprised if they each have 10 plus targets. That's going to be the focal point of that offense, especially given the fact that, their running back situation is an absolute dumpster fire. Is Zeke going to play this week? It seems like he should play this week. It seemed like it was a one-off situation, but I mean, he's clearly not all for Dallas and not all committed and into this game. Yeah. So it'll be Rico Dowdle and Deuce Vaughn for the most part. It's just unfortunate. It's a really tough circumstance to be in for Cooper Rush, and he's just coming into a situation that's already completely volatile. We've seen the video where it looks pretty clear as day that Dak Prescott saying we suck. So, yeah. I mean, it's pretty clear that there's a lot going on that's just not working right. And it was just a short time ago, the Eagles were in a similar situation and the Cowboys were pointing and laughing at us. We had a great start to the season and we ran into this bad stretch of games. Look, hindsight being 2020, you look back, could it have been the play calling or play callers? Could it have been, there's a multitude of situations that we could talk about to rehash the Eagles situation, but it just kind of looks like the Dallas Cowboys are going through a similar situation and they're probably going to just have to clean house. And I mean, I know that Eagles fans are probably jealous because they're like, oh, we want to get rid of Nick Sirianni so we can have Bill Belichick, because the big thing is, Bill Belichick's going to be the prized possession this offseason. And he was seemed to want Philly or Dallas as two lead options for his future employer. So obviously that'll be immediately where like a Jerry Jones or Jeffrey Lurie's probably going to go if the firing happens. Okay. But yeah, Cooper Rush not really scared me, especially given how an offense runs. The only thing that scares me is the Eagles have a tendency to give up a lot of yards, give up a lot of catches when it's a simple, dumbed down, fire the ball out quick offense. We just hemorrhage yards when we're left with that type of situation.
Yeah, we're not the Eagles historically have never been great about quarterbacks who get the ball out instantly. And you're absolutely right. The best way when you have a backup quarterback, you're in a tough situation, is to try and get the ball out as quickly as possible. Don't give the other team's defense a chance to pin their ears back. And you're absolutely right. Lamb and Ferguson are probably going to eat. You never know what we'll see from the Cowboys running game. But honestly, I think the Eagles' run defense has actually been pretty stellar last couple of weeks. So it'll be an interesting matchup. I'm more interested as far as trying to figure out, and it's going to be CeeDee Lamb versus the Young Guns, versus Q, versus Coop. I just, again, don't really care about the outcome, more or less. It's more of getting them the experience against a player at such a high caliber like CeeDee Lamb. And Q has been, shutting them down. He already has a cool little nickname, Guantanamo Bay. And I'm here for it. And Coop has been the spark for this defense. Ever since he was inserted, they have been winning games. And it's because the defense have been playing a lot better. So yeah, hats off to those two, and the linebackers, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. As soon as the irony that Cooper DeJean comes in and suddenly this defense completely changes is crazy to me, that one player can have that impact. But yeah. I don't think it's solely the one player, but sure. The way he plays probably, it starts to rub off on other people, and you can see it. We aren't missing tackles as much, and Cooper DeJean has made some huge stops in the past few games that have stood out, like the Jamar Chase stop and everything. And yeah, usually, Kenyon Mitchell, he won't necessarily be on a guy 100% of the time because Darius Slay's in the picture. Darius Slay is not in the picture this week, I don't think.
No, I just at least the last report I read was that we had two or three. We had like AJ
yes,
Brown,
he was a full go.
Dallas,
yes, he was full go.
Devontae, Nolan Smith, and Darius Slay, who were all dealing with stuff are officially good to go for
Yes.
Sunday.
Just Ben Van Sumeren likely won't make it because he's still going through the concussion protocol. But yeah, so I mean, we still get to see probably a mix, but I would love to see Q like actually follow a guy and show us like, can you follow a guy? Can you completely be on this guy? Like just shadow that guy for a full game
Right.
because we've seen bits and pieces and he's made some great plays. He's made some great stops. He should be up there about 10 interceptions on the season, but yet he still has 0. But I would like to see a full game where he's following like a core element of an offense because him and Darius Slay have just kind of been on their sides. And if CD's over there, he'll be with Slay. If CD's over here, he's going to be with Q. If he's in the slot, he's going to be with Cooper DeJean. Like they don't really move. The defense doesn't really move in a way that's conducive of seeing what someone's got being strictly on one guy. Not that I doubt Kenyon Mitchell one bit. I mean, is he going to have a game where he probably only gives up 20 yards to CD Lamb if he's 100% on CD Lamb? No, I think you'll start to see, it is a tough game anyways as being a cornerback. So that like the stats are amazing and all, but if you're 100% on the top guy, you're going to see a lot more yards given up and a lot more catches given up.
Yeah, listen, I think it's rarer now to have just a one-on-one matchup.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 20 years ago, that was pretty much all it was.
You loved it. You looked for it. Marshawn Latimer, Mike Evans, they gave you some, recent memory gave you some amazing one-on-one battles where they went at it for almost 100% of snaps.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I could remember looking forward to seeing who Darrelle Revis was going against and stuff like that. But I think this is something to the Eagles' benefit and to these young players' benefit is not just going one-on-one and having kind of like an in and out, so he's not constantly on it, and Coop will get his share to try and lock up CD and Q and Slay and that's great. I think that's the way you got to attack some of these, higher caliber wide receivers. I mean, they did it with Jamar Chase. Jamar didn't really do much against us, and we've had the young kid from last week, Brian Thomas Jr. He didn't really do much. I mean, granted, he was a little hobbled, but still, I like this for the way this defense is, and this is giving little bits at a time, but it's giving confidence to these young two guys, and these two guys are going to be the future. I mean, Slay, absolutely. I could see Slay this being his last year with the Eagles, and them moving forward and saying, all right, well, we've done this before in the Eagles with Sheldon Brown and Lito Shepherd, and and before that with why am I blanking on it? Bobby Taylor and why am I blanking on Bobby Taylor? Anyway, but you know what I mean if you're listening. But my brain doesn't always work. But I think they did this again with Q and Coop, and I think they're going to be able to say, all right, well, we got our corners pretty good. Let's focus on other positions. And one of those positions I thought before the year was linebacker, and it appears that we need to sign Zach Bond right now because this man is playing out of his mind. And if he was smart, he'd realize that the combination of playing for this team and for this defensive coordinator is what is unlocking his full potential. And, I'm hoping he's smart enough to know that, all right, I could go and get myself, a big offseason check somewhere else. But he might be back in the situation he was before where he was just a special teamer, basically. So
yeah, agreed. I mean, we saw Andrew Van Ginkel, who got this similar treatment with Vic Fangio, came out of nowhere, exploded onto the scene. And I mean, he's still doing fairly well over in Minnesota. Right. So he's stuck, but maybe, Minnesota was a team that was smart enough to say, we're not going to fit him into our system. We're going to use him the way we know he can be used and work. Yeah. So you have to be willing if Zach Bond signs that deal or you're going out to get him and get him to sign that deal in the offseason, that you're ready to use him the way he's been used by Vic Fangio. Because otherwise, like you said, he's just going to return to being a special teamer with minimal impact on the game. And he has been a massive impact from week one every single week. There's so few. Exactly. There's so few weeks. Like Nakobe Dean, he hit a couple bumps in the road there, heading into the bye week and the grade out of the bye week, but he's completely turned it around with the rest of the defense. Yeah. And I mean, me and LJ have talked about it on previous episodes that, it's no coincidence that Miami got a lot better as the season rolled on, and their defense and our defense is getting a lot better as the season rolls along with Vic Fangio, because it is a more complex system. It does require and ask different things of different people in different subsets and packages. So you're not always just, in man coverage, this is what you're doing in man coverage, or zone coverage, this is what you're doing in a cover 2 or a cover 3. He has bunches of different elements to this defense that make it so hard to probably grasp right off the bat, especially when you're not playing in the preseason, especially when the first couple weeks is a feeling out. It's a more dumbed down play calling process, just trying to get everyone's feet under them. So I agree with you. I mean, it's that altogether, this defense, I mean, I still have my concerns about the edges. I'm not fully, Josh Sweat, there's a reason he hasn't gotten his payday. There's a reason Milton Williams hasn't gotten his payday. Bryce Huff, I mean, they say it's a hand, although, I mean, he has been almost non-existent all year. So I don't know if a hand injury is going to be what sells me on why he played limited snaps last week. Yeah. But I mean, I still have my concerns from the pass rush perspective. Jalen Carter had statistically not a great game, but huge game last week. He was wreaking havoc.
That's the thing. I think Jalen Carter, when if you're only looking at the stat sheet, you'll never know how dominant this guy is. He is just absolutely absorbing doubles, and not only absorbing them, but destroying them sometimes, getting past them. And the fact of the matter is Jordan Davis is also sneakingly having a great season as well. It doesn't seem like it as well, but statistic wise, and the fact that I'm a little concerned about the fact that he doesn't always play a lot, but he is very, very effective in the run game. And that has had a huge impact. Him and Zach Bond in the run defense have had a huge impact. And it can't be understated how much that fact has turned our defense around.
Absolutely. I agree. And I mean, it's unfortunate, like you said, that, Jordan Davis, we spend a first round pick on him. You expect him to go on the field like 90% of the time. You expect him to step out there. They seem to be finding a balance with him and Moro Ojomo and, a very small sprinkle of Thomas Booker, like 5 snaps a game. They're seeming to find a balance between, the fact that, he's probably more of a 40 to 50% of the snaps per game type of player. Put him out there for your rundowns. It'll be interesting to see how it goes this week when you don't have to focus on much of a run game, because, the Dallas Cowboys run defense ranks 32nd in attempts, 31st in yards, and 31st in touchdowns. Like, you don't really have to stress that even if you leave some gaps that they're going to do much with it. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. And that, I think, is huge for like Jalen Carter, Milton Williams, because you can pin your ears back against Cooper Rush and go. You don't have to think like, okay, where's the running back? Is he coming through my gap? What do I got? Like, you hardly have to think about that this week, which I think plays massively into the favor of the pass rush for us. And I think it can be a game where, we end up with another 5, 6, 7 sack performance by this defense, because hopefully Bryce Huff's 100%, put him in his, his stand-up stance and pin the ears back and go, because you don't have to worry. I think Dean and Bond can probably, and the safeties can probably cover if it's a run play and the running back starts to get through. I think they can get that covered this week by themselves, and this defensive line can really have a big week. They're one of my, my positions to watch as a whole. That unit should be able to feast, especially with no Dak Prescott either.
Yeah, hopefully. And it kind of works in tandem with defense, and hopefully realizing that Cooper Rush is going to want to get the ball out as quickly as possible, and that the defense presses a little bit with maybe some help over the top just in case. But you're absolutely right. Hopefully I could see them. I could see them maybe getting 2 or 3 sacks, but I can also I will say, regardless of how many sacks they get, I have a feeling Cooper Rush is going to be on his butt all day.
I hope so.
There are going to be so many almost sacks because he's just getting rid of the ball. And I think this could be a huge Jalen Carter week.
Yeah, I actually saw a chart about Josh Sweat too, where he's actually up there in like disruptive.
Yep.
Disruptive. Well, I don't know what I can't remember. Disruptive pressures. It was disruptive pressure because his graph was basically disruptive pressures versus just pretty much pure pressures. Like, pressures like getting within 2 yards of the quarterback or something. But so Josh Sweat, when he gets at the quarterback, he makes them pay. He's disruptive, and it's just unfortunate that he doesn't do it at, a TJ Watt level or Nick Bosa or the level. And I know they're elite. You're never going to compare them to Sweat, but that's the elite of the elite. And it would be nice if he could be even 20% more effective, because if he's that disruptive of a pass rusher when he's getting pressure, if he was even more that just 10 to 20% more of the time, that's a couple more huge pressures per game. I think Sweat could have a good game though.
Yeah, no, he's again another one that he's not gonna have 20 sacks, but the last couple of games he has been very effective. Him and Jalen Carter have been a very huge difference. And I've always felt that the defense, each position affects the next, and I think because the linebackers has been so well, and because of our young corners to help the defensive backs, it's really been the defensive line that's kind of been underwhelming, and they're starting to come around very slowly, but starting to come around. And you're hoping that Brandon Graham isn't at the end of the year isn't going to be the one you're saying, well, he was the most effective player, and the guy who's 40 years old, the most effective player on your line. But they're starting to come up, and I have all the faith in the world that this rise, slow but sure, but this rise will continue for the rest of the season for that defensive line.
Yeah, I think unfortunately in Fangio's scheme, you're left on a bit of an island as an edge. You're left to go one-on-one with the tackles, and Josh Sweat, Bryce Huff, not notoriously known for their repertoire of pass rush moves. Bryce Huff's a big speed guy. It's he wins it with speed or he doesn't win it. So it's the scheme that, you got to be a pretty good all around edge rusher to really operate and be really good in this system. I mean, we talked in past episodes that, the problem may very well have been Reddick in the locker room a little bit last season, but a guy like Reddick probably would have found some pretty solid success in this system. Unfortunately, he's not here. And Josh Sweat, I think that's the big reason how he hasn't put the extension on Sweat, is how he's like, okay, you're a good edge rusher, but you're not elite of the elite. But pass rush is such a premium that Josh Sweat's like, if I hit that open market, I can get what I want. So it's the difference, the push and pull between Sweat knows there's a premium on his position and he can get paid, and Howie knows I really don't want to pay that premium, and I'm stingy with money. So that's the big thing with the Josh Sweat extension is he wants. He's a big production guy, like Howie is. Like he looks. Look at Huff has a career year, non-existent for 3 years, has a career year, and he just drops the money just like that because he had 11 and a half sacks or whatever it was. So he looks at that statistics a lot from the edge rush perspective. If he's going to pay that premium, he's going to get a premium player, or in his eyes, a premium player.
Yeah, hopefully. And I could, like I said, I think Sweat. I don't see a scenario where he stays, because you're right. He can get paid, and why would you stay when you could get paid a lot more and probably have a lot more success? Because the way that this system works maybe isn't the best for Josh Sweat, but I've been on millions of shows with Dibes, and we do a lot of college shows where we look into the prospects, and we've been focusing on edge because we know it's probably going to be the same thing we did last year. We're gonna probably go edge right away back-to-back picks. Like I am more convinced of it, unless some impact player kind of falls into their lap. But yeah, it's going to be such a need for the Philadelphia Eagles because Sweat, I could see him being gone. Brandon Graham might play another year just because he feels so bad, but who knows? Maybe he does finally retire, and well, then who are you left with? Are you left with Huff, Mister? I couldn't touch a quarterback for the first 6 weeks. Like that's kind of scary.
Not great for the edge room for sure. I mean, I did it for fun. I did a mock draft, posted it on the Kelly Green Hour feed today, and I went edge with the first pick and the third pick. And it's just because when I was looking at the board at the second pick, it didn't really fall the best of ways. Right. And so
did you get edge wise?
Oh, now I got to pull that back up. I got to pull that up, and I'll tell you. It's just because even the way I did it, a lot of the top end edge rushers were already off the board when I got to mine. I did Princely, and I have no clue how to pronounce his last name, from Mississippi, Ole Miss.
Umami Ellen.
Yep, that was mine, and then Ashton Gilote from Louisville was the second one.
Okay, so that is kind of funny. So on the last episode on this very network of Armchair Scouts, I did a player profile of Ashton Galat. And I think this guy is an absolute stud in the making. He is just athletic. He's a freak.
The traits are
wild. The traits fly off the board. And yeah, the fact that you went and got Princely Umami Ellen from Ole Miss, I love it right now. You tell me that's who we're getting in the first 3 picks, I'm on board. I'll tell you that. Now, who'd you get in the second pick?
I think I went ahead and I looked at life after Lane Johnson with that pick. I went Blake Miller on that pick tackle at Clemson.
Yeah.
I was looking at life after, because eventually, let's just face it, the reality is you got to look at life after Lane Johnson eventually. And so
it's funny, again, we talked about this whole thing is we've been doing this for the last 3 years. Oh, we got to get a tackle. We got to get a tackle. We got to get a tackle.
And he never does it.
And we never doing it. So honestly, I think in all seriousness, I think Lane is going to be like, listen, this is my last year. And he's just, whenever it is, he's going to say it. And Howie's going to be like, all right, if a tackle's there, a tackle's there. And he's not going to rush. He's not going to reach. And if he can get somebody, great. But honestly, I fully kind of think that we may have a Lane Johnson and then a rookie.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
To fill the void, I think it's going to go right from that. And I don't think there's going to be a wait-and-see player like we've had with Kelsey. He's had so many opportunities to pull this move, and he just hasn't. So,
and the thing with Kelsey is every year he was like, "Okay, this is my last year."
Well, that also is a little different.
And he gets it, then suddenly Kelsey agrees their deal, and then suddenly they realize, Landon Dickerson was supposed to be the Jason Kelsey, and he got really good at left guard, and we we're like, "Well, we can't realistically go and move him to the center spot."
He's all pro now, yeah.
Then Cam Jurgens, and so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, we do have Jeff Stowland at our disposal, which is a God's gift to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Like, the fact of the matter is, we took Becton, a guy who coming out of college was an absolute monster, came into the Jets and was very underwhelming. He comes here, he's asked to play a position he's never played before. And he's been really good.
And something he wouldn't do with New York. He did not want to play other positions. He wanted to be the position he came in to play.
Exactly.
And Stellan had him try, I think, every position.
Yeah.
So
I tell you. And honestly, if you tell me right now that this is Lane Johnson's last year, All right, I'm good. Kick Becton out to right tackle. I'm
Pay
fine with
Becton
that.
and move him out. Yeah.
I'm perfectly happy because we have Stoutland, the man.
Now,
can
if
do
Jeff
no wrong.
Stoutland said this is my last year and we had
Oh,
nothing in the back for
oh
the
shit!
backfill, I'd be really nervous. So hopefully Jeff sticks around for
That is
that.
that is exactly when I light everything on fire and just run out. That is scary. Let's never talk about that again.
The one that survives the full cutting of coaches. When the whole staff goes, he's on his own island, like, but you stand over there. Everybody else is empty your offices and lockers. You're out. But never Jeff Stoutland. So.
Never Jeff Stoutland. It'll be
Money
a
Go
sad
Birds.
day.
Of course, go Birds.
What's that? Oh, yeah.
And Monty Bentley said, "Go Birds!" Of course,
Well,
go Birds! Always, always.
Yeah, listen, that's going to be a sad day, honestly, and we're going to need to rethink a lot of things after Stoutland ever decides. But hopefully, he's got 20 years left in him.
With coaches, you never know. There's some guys on the sidelines that are like heading towards 90, and they're still there.
You're right. You're
Jeff
sure
Stoutland,
right.
and he looks like he's built. He's a big fella, but he looks like he's in like good shape. That man works out. We don't got to worry about that. So
I've met him a few times in person, and yeah, he's short but stocky, but in a good way. He looks healthy. He's definitely can do it.
Speaking of that, let's move to the offensive side of the ball since we hit on the defense pretty solidly. Offensive side of the ball, I mean, when I look at the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, their defense across the board has been so bad. And you can say, Micah Parsons has missed time. He's been banged up, but like Micah Parsons can't be a be all end all. Like Trayvon Diggs is Trayvon Diggs. That's a guy who he can make the impact plays, same as Deron Bland, but they will go out and give up 100 yards every single game. But they might get you the pick that turns the whole tide of the game for you. Or like Deron Bland last year, who had like 8 interceptions or 9 interceptions. Like he led the league in interceptions. They can be impact players. They're just not shut down corners. So like you put, Deron Bland's not going to be back this week. They've already announced he's going to miss again.
He hasn't played at all this year, right?
He hasn't played at all. But his window's open. So he's probably back next Sunday. He has to be because his 21-day window, I think, ends next week. But like Trayvon Diggs on essentially an island against A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, like they should be able to absolutely feast Jalen Hurts in this passing offense this week. We don't want to force the passing offense, of course, because we've seen over and over again when you force the passing offense, that's when Jalen makes the mistakes. That's when the turnovers happen. And that's when we tend to struggle from a passing perspective. But the passing offense has gotten better with the motion, the play action, under center. A lot of the changes that came out of the bye week have them moving in the right direction. So, I mean, I think this can be, when you have to turn to the passing game, you can absolutely unload and should be able to have a day. Just if you want, avoid Trayvon Diggs. But guess what? You got Devontae Smith. You got A.J. Brown. Dallas Goedert's coming back. You got Saquon Barkley. This is one of those games, where you look at a defense that's really, really bad. And this is when, we always say, how do you keep up with all these weapons? And some teams, they have 1 or 2 guys that can shut out a couple guys. So suddenly you're cut in half, but you still got guys. This is one of those games where it's like, okay, avoid that one guy, but we got 3 or 4 other guys who can definitely fill that void if necessary. Because, of course, then there's Jalen Hurts' legs. Of course, they're their own weapon and element. Although, Nick let it slip a little bit today. One of the most awkward exchanges I've ever seen in a press conference. But he let it slip. And then, of course, Tim McManus came out and said he heard from some sources that for the last couple of weeks, Jalen Hurts has been dealing with something with his ankle. Last year, we were concerned down that back stretch, at least on that Kelly Green hour, we were concerned that there was something bothering him, and that's why he wasn't running. That's why he would, to start the year this year, he wasn't running all that well, wasn't running with the authority. Then he started, and he's still been doing it. So hopefully it's nothing that's going to affect him too much, and it's just a little tweak of something. But I mean, defensively, the Dallas Cowboys, even from a Russian perspective, they're a better passing defense than they are a Russian defense. So, Saquon Barkley didn't get his, that 173 yards, didn't beat that record game because he wanted to let the young guys go. He might be able to break it by halftime up against this Russian defense that ranks 30th in yards, 31st in touchdowns. Like, you could probably just win this game on the ground exclusively.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Kenny Gainwell could probably have 150 yards.
Cover your ears, LJ. We are done seeing Kenny Gainwell. If anything, I want Will Shipley. This is a game where you put Will Shipley out there and give him a go.
Please, everybody who knows me knows me. I am a backup running back hater. I have been for my entire life. You name a backup running back, I've probably hated them really bad. And right now, my hate is on Kenny Gainwell. I don't like him. I don't want him to see him touch the ball. I don't want him out there. I just don't want anything to do with him. And you're right. I want to see some Will Shipley. That's a kid I would love to be able to finally break the backup running back curse. This dude's fun to watch, and hopefully he gets some carries there late in the game when we're up, hopefully up a couple scores.
I want to see him behind our starting offensive line. He always gets stuck with the backups, and I think that doesn't do his game because he did get put out there in the fourth quarter a couple weeks ago in a blowout game, and he just didn't look all that good, but he was playing with the backups and stuff. So I would really love to, have him go behind the ones a few times and see what he's capable of, because I think he could really do some damage behind this offensive line, the starters.
Yeah, agreed. He's looked great even behind the bad, the backups. So, in fact, that his one, it would have been his first touchdown run. That was a beautiful run. We need to see more of that. So I'm all in favor of more Will Shipley.
I don't know what it is that this man, like Howie. It's usually I feel it's a Howie thing, because there's always that one player who just survives the test of time that everyone's like, why does he continue to take a 53-man roster spot from somebody else? And it used to be, there was Boston Scott. We used to see it with some players defensively that just he continued. There's none coming to my head right now, but they'd be there the whole length of their rookie contract and do absolutely nothing. And it's like you waste a 53-man spot to finally let this guy go. Alberto, like, here's an example. Like, you held on, you traded for this guy, you held on to him for a certain point in time. You never would put him on the practice squad for some reason, because I don't know what it was that you thought someone saw in him that they were coming for him. He still is a free agent to this day. We released him, and he is still a free agent. Like, there's certain things that Howie sees in players that I think he just loves and becomes infatuated in. Sure. And like Boston Scott, Alberto, Kenny Gainwell, a number,
Greg Ward,
Jalen Mills, although he had his moments more, he gave Jalen Mills and Rasul Douglas quite the line to work with. Although I was a pretty big Rasul Douglas fan, I just think he didn't fit in the scheme. He's meant to be right up on that line of scrimmage, roughing a guy up, not 10 yards back and using instincts. So it's weird. I don't know. But Kenny Gainwell, I think almost every show on the Eagles Pinpoll Network is in agreement. It is time that Kenny Gainwell just stop taking up a 53-man roster spot. There is no reason in my mind that we cannot have running backs be like the 49ers. Next man up, next man up, next man up. Because our offensive line is equal or better. Of course, their offensive scheme is more conducive to success for a running back. But there's no reason in my mind that can't be the same thing for us. Of course, Saquon Barkley, priority number one, you paid the guy, run him into the ground for the next 2-3 years. But, if Barkley goes down, theoretically, there's no reason someone can't just be next man up and go. And we've seen Kenny Gainwell be that next man up and go. We've also just sat there and been like, I think we can do better. Why do we have to watch Kenny Gainwell?
Right. I'm with you. Believe me. I am on the free Kenny Gainwell from this roster campaign.
This is not even a free we're giving you a hard time. We're giving you a hard time. It's not like free because our offense isn't good for you. It's free, like, thank you for your time.
Yeah, exactly.
Go be a 49er now or something, because I'm sure that's exactly where you would go.
Sure.
But otherwise, offensively, there's a reason we spend so much time elsewhere. The defense for the Cowboys is just, there's nothing. It's the main reason that they continue to lose. They have that minus 54 point differential. which it probably could be a lot worse. And it might get a lot worse with Cooper Rush at quarterback, because Dak Prescott, the king of garbage time, was always able to make things look like it might turn into a game. Cooper Rush might not be able to do that. And they ranked 31st in points against. They've given up 225 points. It's a lot. That's 28 points a game they're giving up. That's a ton of points to be given up. So there's a reason I've avoided really talking about it, because there really isn't a whole lot I'm looking at defensively. I mean, Micah Parsons is Micah Parsons. He should be in Philadelphia midnight green already, but you have to wait till the end of this year. So we'll see what happens then. But, beyond Micah Parsons, I've never been a Trayvon Diggs fan. Never. He's always been that guy. Like, you sat there and they're like, look at all the picks this guy had. That one year he had like 10 picks, but it's like, yeah, but he gave up 100 yards per game.
Yeah, exactly. He gave up the most yards.
He won you games by putting your offense in the right field position because he can force turnovers, but he also probably cost you in games that you lost. Right. So, like, beyond Micah Parsons, there's literally almost nothing defensively.
No, you're right. And I think Micah is one of the 5 Cowboys right now that are questionable. Diggs, Parsons, Eric Kendrick, which again is their starting middle linebacker, who I like. I think he has a shoulder injury. And then another one of their linebackers, and then who's their rookie left tackle, Guyton. They're all questionable. So I just named 4 out of the 5 players right there are defensive players. So they're still banged up. We already said Bland is not going to play. So again, even if Micah does play, or even if Diggs does play, they're hobbled. They're dealing with stuff. And listen, you're going up against an offense that has more weapons than you're used to dealing with. And when you don't really have much to begin with, going up against a team with a Saquon Barkley that's going to punish you all game, with an A.J. Brown that's going to just go over the top, with a Smitty that's going to cut your field in half, with Dallas Goedert who's going to own the middle. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So honestly, if I was Diggs, if I was Parsons, I'd be like, maybe I need another week.
I mean, I wouldn't blame him, but I mean, I guess if you're going to figure out if there's anything to salvage of the season, these next couple weeks are going to be the true tellers for you. It's unfortunate, that you got to do without Dak. And I think that's the straw that breaks the camel's back in Dallas is that, if you had Dak, you're fine. Without Dak, I don't know if this 3-5 ship turns around and becomes a playoff team. So I agree with you. Even the players playing are going to be banged up. I mean, I'd love to see the Eagles run the score up in the first half and just see backups for the second half. I would love it because, we're dealing with stuff too. A.J. Brown's banged up. Smitty admitted he's a bit banged up. Jalen Hurts now, that's come out. Saquon Barkley, if you get a chance to not have this guy continue at his record carrying pace, then you might avoid hurting Saquon Barkley. Mekhi Becton's dealing with something. Fred Johnson's dealing with something. There's a lot of guys who could, especially with the short week coming up, because you got the Commanders coming up on Thursday night. They could benefit from a chance to get off the field and not play because, when times get tough, teams can get dirty. Players can get dirty. And you don't want your guys out there risking injury against a Cowboys team who's realizing their season's continuing to crumble and they're like, screw it. And they start, we've seen like Justin Herbert where I think it was a Saint that like tried to twist his leg off. You don't want those types of situations occurring with Jalen Hurts or Saquon Barkley or A.J. Brown. They're too crucial.
Let's see Kenny Pickett in the fourth quarter.
Absolutely. I'd be fine seeing him in the third. If we're up like 4 scores, chuck out Kenny Pickett. Chuck out all the backups. Let's do it. Let's do it right if we're able to do it right.
Let's have another 44-6 game where we're just destroying them. I'm fine with that right now. We need one of those games, honestly.
We're due. We're due for one of those games, even though we've had, we recently had, the Jags game was way closer than it should have been, but the Bengals and the Giants games are pretty good beat games.
They're not bad.
But we could use some more. Why not? Especially against a divisional opponent. Like we were talking leading up to this. These next 2 weeks are huge for the Eagles. These next 2 weeks, like if you come out beating the Cowboys and Commanders, A, you take over first place in your division, and B, you pretty much control your fate down the backstretch if you're able to continue winning and just go win for win or whatever with the Washington Commanders. You can lean into these 2 weeks as being what got you to be the NFC's champion, or maybe not. One or the it could go either way.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you do that, you are 9-2. You are essentially a Saquon Barkley catch from being, 10-1, and this is not where we thought this team would be, especially early in the year. But listen, sometimes offenses, sometimes defenses, they take a couple games to kind of get figured out. And it looks like that defense maybe just needed 4 or 5 weeks, and they seem to be humming on all cylinders. And this offense, if we can finally have a fully healthy offense, who's stopping that offense? So when you finally have both working in tandem, it's a recipe for a great team. And Jalen's playing smart, and that, I think, is the catalyst to that offense. Is him playing smart football.
Massively.
He's not, I think he's had maybe 1 or 2 turnover worthy plays in the last 4 weeks. That's what you love to see. So let's
imagine your defense 2-3 times per game being put in a situation where the other teams get in really good field position because of a turnover. We saw it those first 4 weeks. It happened. He was averaging 2 turnovers a game. We saw the situation that put in the strain that puts on the defense. Then flip it over. I mean, look at Dallas. Dak Prescott has like 9 interceptions. I think he leads the league in interceptions, or he's right up there with interceptions.
Yeah, right.
And look at how bad their defense is. If you're not giving your defense a chance, and they're constantly having to go back on the field and try to defend, you're going to lose. You're never. And the fact that we were able to win some of those games while losing the turnover battle was amazing in its own right.
Yeah,
we easily could have been 0-4, but we came out on the higher end of it at 2-2, and we haven't looked back since.
Yeah.
Now, offensive and defensive player that you're looking at that you think it's going to be high impact, big game statistically, or not statistically. Jalen Carter has big games without it, but offense and defense just for the Eagles.
I'm gonna defensively. I'm looking at Cooper DeJean. I really want to see how he matches up when CD's in the slot. And I'll say this also with a caveat that I'm going to be watching Cooper, but I really, really hope I don't have to see Avonte Maddox anymore. He's done. I'm over him.
Last week did it. That one, you went out there one time. What Vic Fangio thought in that moment, or whoever was in charge of swapping personnel in that moment, said, "This is this crucial moment. Get out there, Avonte." That drew the line for me. I'm like, if he's out there, it's because it's a blowout win. There is no reason you are telling me Cooper DeJean isn't one of those guys every week that's at 100% of snaps played.
If Slay was healthy last week, I don't think we would have seen Avonte.
I hope not.
And now that he is, I fully expect that to happen. So let's unless we're blowing out the Cowboys, I don't I don't want to see him. So so I'll be watching Cooper. And sorry about that. And offensively, I'll probably be watching AJ. Just want to make sure that healthy wise he's okay. And just again, I kind of want to just have his big Cowboy game moment. You know what I mean? Like, how many times did Deshaun have kind of his moment against the Cowboys? I want to see that for AJ. I want to see this huge game from AJ. 2 touchdown, 150 yards. Like that's the kind of game I'm really hoping for AJ. So I'll be watching him, but mostly because I want to make sure he's healthy.
For me, I'm looking Dallas Goddard. You talked about him dominating. Similar reasoning for you. Health wise, where are you at? Should you have been put on the IR? Should you have just skipped this game? But these are 2 crucial weeks we know, and I think that's what he knew when he got hurt is don't put me on the IR. I'm going to work my ass off. I'm going to take I'll load myself up with painkillers, keep,
Right.
Weight off my injury. I'm going to be there for those 2 weeks. I need to be there for those 2 weeks. Grant Calcaterra has been great. He stepped in admirably. I think even if Dallas Goddard's not there, Dallas Goddard's a great all-around tight end. But from, what it does for the offense, I think Grant Calcaterra was doing just fine. I think we would have been fine without Goddard. But I'm going to watch Dallas Goddard in this game. Like you said, I think this is a game where you might not have to lean on Devontae, A.J. Brown, and Saquon Barkley fully. And Dallas Goddard can take advantage of that middle of the field, banged up players. Defensively, Bryce Huff. I know, he was a full practice participant the last couple days. So clearly whatever was bothering you in the hand, you weren't limited. Maybe It was just them using it as a way to say, yeah, we only wanted to play him 6 snaps because we didn't want him to cost us anything. But now, we saw Bryce Huff in a game a couple weeks back where he got his first sack and started looking, he was standing upright and doing his rush that way. He was looking better, and it was a matchup. I think it was against the Bengals. It was in a matchup that the defensive line had to start getting pressure, and they started getting a bunch of pressure, and Bryce Huff was one of those guys. And I think this is another game. This is another matchup. Bryce Huff needs to get some confidence. He needs to get growing some confidence and being in these situations where you have a chance to do something and be something, do it, be it. And that will just build confidence so that when the matchups are tougher, maybe you start to find some success. Maybe you start to get rolling on this defense. So in these matchups, I think this is the one where you put Bryce Huff out there a bunch and you try and let him figure it out, work it out, and see what happens. Because I don't think we have to worry too much about this offense. They'll get the ball out quick, but if Bryce Huff or Josh Sweat or the pressure starts coming in on Cooper Rush, doesn't matter how fast you get the ball out. I think I agree with you. He's going to be on his butt a lot, and he's going to be under pressure a lot. So those are my 2 guys, Goddard and Huff.
Yeah. I like that. Hopefully, listen, he needs to have his moment. If he's going to, again, we unfortunately, we have him signed for a couple of years, so he's not going anywhere. It'd be a horrible dead money cap hit to trade him, but hopefully he becomes a serviceable member of this defensive line. And what a great way to start, cement your Eagles legend, and have yourself a day against the Cowboys.
That's the way to do it, especially against the Cowboys. Now, prediction time. Ryan, what do you think the score is going to be? And for the Eagles or the Cowboys W?
Oh, it's an Eagles dub. I'm going to go 34-23 Eagles. I think they're just putting up points, and then I think we give up a late touchdown. That's why it seems a little closer than it was. But yeah, for the most part, it was a two score lead for most of the game.
Yeah, I agree with you. We've put up 28, 37, and 28 in the last 2 weeks. I think there's no reason we're not putting up at least 28 again. I'm going with the Eagles over the Cowboys as well, and I'm going with 34-14. I just don't see a way. Maybe the only reason I think that it might get closer is that garbage time where they might be able to pick up some points against our backups.
I think we basically said the same thing as I went with. They managed to get a garbage touchdown. You said they weren't going to get a garbage touchdown, basically.
I think they're going to get the garbage touchdown, but I don't think they're going to score early. That's where my thought is. When our starters are there, they're getting nothing. They might get, might get 3, might get 7. And then the back stretch is where they're probably going to get their points because I'm hoping that we're resting guys. I'm hoping that we don't have to see the starters much in the second half. So, fingers crossed. Let's see what happens. Tech Quentin, go Eagles. Yes, sir.
You.
Go Eagles. Well, Ryan, it's been great having you on, and we even got to sneak in some draft talk. We got to talk about a little bit of everything. Let's hope this goes the way we want it to go. I mean, if we lose to the Commanders, I think it's going to be a really good game, and it's going to be a close game. But if we lose to the Dallas Cowboys at this point, in this juncture with this squad that the Cowboys are rolling out, it's inexcusable.
Yeah,
the only reason it's a division rival, and you just never know. They may play the best you see behind with Cooper Rush as their quarterback for the rest of the way against just us because it's the Philadelphia Eagles.
Sure.
And that's what I hate about divisional matchups, because these are the ones that get you stressed out and sweating from start to finish, hopefully based on the whole circumstance and everything, that it's not going to be that way this week. But
yeah, hopefully you're right. It's something you can't ever count a team out in a divisional matchup. And that's why there's so many. It's rare when you have like a blowout. It doesn't happen too often, especially with Birds versus the Cowboys. So, but I'm always up for having
we're gonna be hopeful. We're hopeful.
Yeah, let's do it.
He is Ryan at Philly Sports PSA. Thank you so much for joining. As you know, if you go and click at Eagles Pimple anywhere, you're gonna find Ryan on a couple of the other shows. He's on the Armchair Scouts. If you're into college football or you want to get some names of players to keep your eye on.
Yeah, that's honestly, I think when we first kind of started, I was like, this is, great, opportunity for me to dive in a lot sooner than maybe I would have. And, I was able to kind of follow the college football season as it's been going on with an eye on prospects, and specifically prospects for the Eagles, a lot of edge, a lot of tight end. Early in the year, it was linebacker, but I haven't really done too much linebackers lately for obvious reasons. So it's been great to kind of personally dive in, and hopefully we're, coming up with names for people to kind of, do a quick YouTube search, look at some highlights, and just kind of get yourself quasi familiar with some of these people. And, that way come the draft time, you'll sound like the smart guy in the room when you're like, oh yeah, I know about that guy. He blah 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 blah.
Yeah, no, definitely. So at Eagles Pimple, check it out. There's lots of great Eagles content over there, some draft content over there, but all your football and Eagles needs are over there. Definitely wherever you get your podcast, hit subscribe, leave a review, download some episodes, and check them out for sure. Everything helps get us content further out there to everybody else in the world. Check us out on YouTube as well, Facebook, Instagram. I'm Connor at Connor10 TEN, but most of my content is over at the Kelly Green Hour page at Kelly Green Hour on Twitter. So check us out over there and give us a follow. Ryan, it's been great, and fly Eagles fly, baby. Hopefully we come away with a W.
Yeah, let's go. Go Birds.